The iPod is one of the most popular devices from the 2000s, and during the iPod's lifetime, it sold 450 million units. And when a product moves that many units, people want to make accessories for it. We're talking cases, decals, chargers, but one category was almost a requirement to have with your iPod: a dock. There are many big audio brands making iPod docks. We're talking Sony, Bose, Pioneer, Logitech, and one of the most popular, iHome. Some of these docks weren't terrible, but most of them were. There isn't an exact number of how many iPod docks were sold, but I'm just guessing it wasn't a small number, because every thrift store you go to, there's at least 6. Now, with every accessory to a popular device, you have the third-party accessories and you have the first-party ones. Up until 2006, Apple didn't release a first-party iPod dock, but on February 28th, they released the iPod HiFi. On stage, Steve Jobs called out these third-party docks and said they weren't capable of, quote, home stereo quality. The iPod HiFi has a 130mm subwoofer front and center with 2 bass ports and 2 80mm mid-range tweeter drivers. Up top, there's touch-sensitive volume buttons, and I actually like these because they're slightly indented so you can kind of find them without looking. Above that, there's a 30-pin dock, and my HiFi came with a dock for a 160GB iPod. On the back, you have the battery compartment where you can put 6 D-cell batteries. I've been thinking of a way I can make a rechargeable battery pack that can just kind of click into the back, but I haven't thought of anything crazy yet. I'm sure you guys want to take a listen to this thing, so I'm going to be playing a sample of a song next to some other Bluetooth speakers that you probably know what sound like. I'll put the names up so you can figure out which ones they are. If you have one, there's your point of reference. So, yeah, just enjoy this next, 2 minutes of footage. And now for the movie test. All I did was plug the aux input from the iPod HiFi into the headphone output of my receiver for my TV.
We need more guys.
That is all the guys. is all the guys.
In very short conclusion, this thing sounds really good. Is it good for movies compared to my rig? Nah, I wouldn't say so. It does sound good, but I personally just like my surround sound better. Now, what if you wanted to use this as an AirPlay speaker? Well, Apple recommends using an Airport Express V2 with the audio output jack on it. I don't have one of those on hand, and I don't really want to deal with Wi-Fi router, but what I do have is a $15 Apple TV, and if you guys saw that video, you know it's not really that useful anymore. So what I did was rename the Apple TV to iPod HiFi, and connected it to the iPod HiFi with an HDMI to VGA adapter that has an audio output. Technically, you could use an optical to mini optical, or whatever that's called, cable, but I don't have one of those, and this sounds literally just fine. There's no difference that I can tell. It sounds perfect. But why was it a failure? Why did no one buy one? Well, because they already had stereos that they had had for years. They sounded great. They could do way more than the iPod HiFi ever could on its own. They had CD changers, and many of them also had cassette decks if they were really old. But there was an accessory that Apple made themselves that kind of shot themselves in the foot in terms of the hi-fi, and that was the iPod Universal Dock. The dock worked with every 30-pin iPod ever released. It could charge and sync your iPod if you connected the dock to a computer, and it even had a remote just like the hi-fi. It did everything the hi-fi did, but you used your own hi-fi. In fact, you didn't even need the dock. You could just connect your iPod to power and an aux input on your stereo and it would just work. There was nothing stopping you from using the stereo you already had, and I think that's why no one bought one. But maybe you didn't have a stereo already and you just wanted an iPod speaker. Well, for those people, there were already products on the market way before the iPod HiFi was ever released. And again, most people who wanted one already had one. Another big issue was price. This thing sold for $300. That was a lot of money back in 2006 for a speaker. An iPod alone cost around that same price. If it sold for cheaper, I'm sure people would have bought these and loved them, but it was just too expensive. And for the most part today, they're pretty much all in the hands of collectors, and it's kind of hard to get your hands on one. I've never come across one in the wild, and I ended up buying mine off eBay. So, yeah, if you ever come across one in the wild, buy it. You'll love it. And that's it. If you enjoyed this, drop a like, leave a comment if you had one of these back in 2006 and what you thought of it at the time. Also, I'm sorry this video took so long to come out. I was just being lazy on my summer break, and I finally just threw this thing together because I was tired of waiting. Can you not right now? Go on. Really? Charlie.